Hi guys, I don't have much memory on my card, so I'm going to make this one quick. Anyone I've had to put up boundaries with, I have not had them come back with change behavior. What I have had them come back with is distance and time and space, but never a remorseful apology that says, I've experienced what I put you through and I I know what that feels like, and so now I know what I put you through. Uh, what I have had is people will leave me time and space, and then they'll just wait, and all of a sudden they'll come out and they'll just act like nothing ever happened. It'll be like we never had a conflict. They'll act like we're good friends. They'll act like I just needed some time because I was going through something. In reality, it was their bad behavior that made me want to distance myself from them. And let's just be clear here. At one point, I used to be the person who would feel the need to over communicate and overreach to be like, hey, like you did this and that hurt my feelings, and this, I don't like when you behave like that. And I no longer do that. And especially like I used to do with family, but even with strangers now, I always felt like it was my job to like be the bigger person and try to fix the conflict, and just like I had to communicate better. It was never the communication or lack of, it was never me being the problem, except for the fact that I was moving towards people who I could subconsciously sense that these people are not for me. In the way that I had to recognize like not everyone is for me, and I had to stop thinking that I was being drawn to people who had childhood trauma. And some of these people have had childhood trauma, but the fact is they have decided not to heal it. And so there's something you could be attracted to in people where you're like, I feel like they're like me. And for me, I'm like, I don't know that I could ever, like, I need someone to understand what I've been through in my mind, in order so not to make light of it or to enable other people. And so if somebody can't see the manipulative behaviors in people, and I have to over explain like how that person is unsafe or what that person's doing, those aren't my people. So I need someone who can recognize abusive behavior, the emotional manipulation and the gaslighting, and believe me when I tell them it's happening, instead of backing the abuser, right? And so that's one of the things. But it was also when these there's never a real apology involved. When people come back after you've disconnected from them and put space between yourself, when they come back, they act like nothing's ever happened. They don't, and if you want to address the reason why you left, and don't just tiptoe around it and use the actual terms like they were abusive, they were cruel. Like when you really want to land hard and like not tiptoe around it, like they do not like that. They're going to call you rude. They're not going to be okay with that. Another situation I had was when I would have one of these individuals come back in my life and we started talking about it. It was me that always had to bring up what had happened. It was me that had to call them out for how they had hurt me. And they would somewhat take on some of that responsibility. They'd kind of work, they'd really word salad it. They'd well, I did behave like that, but you were behaving like this too. And when you know what, I feel like, and you may relate to this, like I've always been the one who takes the blame for everything. And so I had to be careful not to keep doing that, just to create a connection and have people around me. And so I recognized these people were doing the same thing to me that I had been doing to myself, which was gaslighting me, making me think that I was part of the problem in the way that I was creating abuse. And so like their reactional abuse was actually just them overreacting and trying to make me feel some sort of way to fall in line, to control me and conform me. And so I had to get to the point where I had done the work on myself, but so much so that I knew what I had done and what I hadn't done. And so when you have these people come back around, if they're not coming back with why and how they hurt you, how they have recovered that within themselves in order to no longer continue that sort of abusive pattern within themselves to other people, and or not tolerate from other people, because I do believe like people who have been abused, you know, they can become the abuser, and I do believe some of these abusers have been abused. And so it's not just enough to like recognize like they were the abuser, they also have to recognize like sometimes there are things like in life where I know that I did certain things because I was being abused, and it doesn't make it right. Like I remember as a single parent, because their dad had taken off, he was financially abusive, his family um, abandoned us as well. My family did that. So like it was me doing like all this for my kids, and I had no community. And so like that left me very limited. You know, I was exhausted, I was depleted, and then I was still trying to think of how I could create this lifestyle of a two-parent household and a community for my kids by one person. And so like those are things that I had to understand. Those aren't natural beliefs. Those are things that have been passed down from my parents, to think that we have to impress other people, that we have to, you know, conform to other people's beliefs, that we got to fit in, we got to be friends, we got to like all these things. These are not my beliefs as a person. And so but I also had to be accountable for like where I had been short with my kids, and where I had not been my calm and patient self with them. It's not natural for one person to have to do all that work, and it does take a toll, and it is gonna mess with your nerves, create burnout. And I had financial abuse, not just from like the kid's father, but like just in general all around me. So I can do different videos about that, but I had to recognize like I had been abused, but then I had become the abuser, and so I had to recognize that as well. And so like if you have someone coming back, they have to recognize just not only the abuse that they were putting onto you, but like that they had um, you know, I believe, I don't know for sure about this, because I know there are people who think they have experienced, there's some people who are quite cruel and have not experienced, you know, those bullies. While they may have experienced something, they are cruel to a number of people, and some people over and over and over again. So to say like, yes, I don't want to dismiss their pain and what they've been through and their abuse, but at the same time, like when they took on this stance of being the bully now, um, that is quite different than being at the hands of the bully, in my understanding. So there's a lot that needs to be happening here, and it can't just be like a hey, I've been thinking about you, how are you, or hey, what's up, or hey, I thought I'd check in with you, or you know, a like on your social media, a comment on your social media. It can't be a casual comment or integration based on a cruel, harsh past of abuse and patterns of it. And so like if these people aren't coming in, so I recently had a situation with a neighbor where we had conflict based on, you know, dogs and leashes and things like that. And so I've not talked to them since that situation, because the way they were not willing to understand how they weren't doing what they needed to be doing. And it was me against some, and usually that's how it is. It's usually me against a group of people, and me needing to speak up. And it's like, it's so confusing. Like, how did all of you people can't come up with some sort of like neutral position and see my side of things at all? And it's, I recognize for me, I was so people pleasing, and I was so leading my life out of guilt, and I didn't want anyone to be uncomfortable. I didn't want anyone to be sad or anything. So I would overextend myself. And so I know that of myself. And so when I have these situations, I know that it's not just an impulsive decision. I said, your dog is off leash in my area. This is I had given them a number of times where we would pass, and they could see that this is not, you know, ideal, and that they chose to do nothing. And the fact that I had to now speak up because they couldn't take a minute and be like, see how this could be an issue. When I have to be the parent in the room, that's a problem. And so recently they had given me a compliment on my yard, and that's so empty. And you know what, I'm not going to sit here and like you know, all they said was, yeah, thank you, I'm making a veggie garden, and then I passed on my path, right? But like, it's not my job to fix the situation, and that compliment doesn't make up for your behavior of the past. Changing your behavior is what changes that. And so like, I hadn't seen their dogs out often, so I thought maybe they had been doing something different. But then 2 days after that compliment, I see the dog out on the lawn again without a leash. So nothing has changed. So a lot of people will just give you space and time, and they'll think, well, she's calmed down. Because I was, and that's the thing too, they're going to make it act like you're the one who blew up. You're the one who had the reaction. You're the one who is rude. But it's like, it wasn't just that one thing. It was a number of occasions where I didn't say anything. And when I did speak up, it wasn't kind and friendly, but it was neutral and it was assertive and it was stating a message in the way that, like, what about old, like, if I stayed long enough to, like, I don't have a calendar. I'm not marking down every time your dog was off leash. I've got better things to do. You know, I know it's a pattern. I know you do this on a regular basis, and it's not my job to, like, talk to you. I have a life to live. It's not my job to parent all these grown-ass adults in my environment. It's not, I got better things to do. And the fact that these people think that you, it's such a weird, I don't know what goes on in their mind in that way, because it's just such a weird, like, get your shit together, dude. Like, what do you do with other people? And you got to think the other people that they're around, they either tolerate this or they support it. And so, like, that's where I create distance. And I've never had someone come back with change behavior where I've had to create a boundary with them. I've never had them say, you know what, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to do differently. I'm going to do this. You know, there's been no truth. There's been no admissions. There's not been any sort of, like, way to, like, some of these situations where I've created boundaries, like, I've had to leave. Some of these are workplaces where I've lost a lot of money. Some of these are experiences and relationships where I've had to take so much time off to rest and recover from the trauma that it like caused me in my life. And when you affect me, you affect my kids. So if I've had to heal from you and take time to rest and recover to get clarity and move forward, like, yes, I'm going to see that as a blessing, but you're part of that lesson, and I don't see good things from you. And so for me to want to go back to that, you're going to have to look at what I lost from that. What loss did you create within my life, and how have you leveled that up? How are you willing to, like, the apology has to be just as big as the disrespect, right? And so if you can't somehow, you know, it's not even about, for me, it's not necessarily about money. Like, I wish people would grow for themselves so their lives can be better. Now, for me, there's a lot of people that I will never go back to. Like, I miss certain family members, but not to the point where, like, I don't miss their abuse. You know, I don't miss that part. And their warm nature that they thought would make up for their aggressive, loud, and angry nature, it doesn't balance out for me. It never did. I just didn't think I had a choice to walk away from it. And so recognize that some people will come back into your life. And this is why I don't reconcile with people of my past. I don't want to hear from people from my past. It's not someone, there's nobody I want to say, hey, like, let's catch up. I just don't. I'm moving forward. I'm not nostalgic anymore. It's like I said, I've done videos like this before. I'm not angry at everyone. I just realized, like, if we wanted to connect, we would have, and we didn't. So it's just not that deep, right? And recognizing I have a limited amount of time for a limited amount of people. And so when I bring people into my life, it's like, you know, it's like food that you eat. You want to, when you get to the point where you really are focusing on your health and your wealth, like, you don't want to waste your calories on empty foods, because you know that those items are exhausting, right? So, like, while I love ice cream, I know what it does to my body, so I can't have ice cream. And and the same thing that goes is, like, so I focus on, like, high protein and you know, I'm looking at fruits and vegetables, those things. So, like, those are the things I prioritize. The same is with people that I associate with. If I see you're messy, if I see you got a lot of shit going on in your life, there are areas of my life that I don't have 100% either, right? But there is a percentage where I've refined it to a point where it's, I'm working on it, and I put a lot of work into it, and it may not be there completely, but it's not enough to make me go back to someone who is still having all of these things. Like, you know, people who don't care about their health, that's not for me. I'm working on my health, and I see the value in that. And so, like, that would be friends or family or partnerships. That would be an unfair advantage, because it's like, if your health sucks, it's just a matter of time that now I'm going to have to be like one of your caregivers. But if I'm sitting here and I'm focusing my time and energy on taking care of myself, how would that benefit? Like, my health is benefiting me and you. Your lack of health is what? Who is that benefiting? Nobody. That's not an equal give and take. And so I had to recognize where some people were just, while I was in transition, I looked at other people being in transition, and it made me really make a lot of excuses for other people. And then I had to realize I was making a lot of excuses for myself. And so once you look at these people of the past and you had to distance yourself before for a good reason, there's a good chance they don't want to change. Think about it. These people are grown adults. And if they don't want to change because it's affecting their life, for me, I recognize they're making excuses or they're blaming other people. They're expecting other people to carry their burden of emotional, hostility and lack of clarity in life. And so, like, that's going to spill on you, you know? And so, like I said, if the apology is coming as if nothing ever happened, nothing has happened. They have not changed. They have found different ways to costume themselves, to camouflage themselves, but they are still doing the same damn thing. Let me tell you how long it takes to heal, the work that is involved, and I am invested in me and myself and my kids. It takes years, and it is challenging. And so when I see people who are still doing things that I did in my past, like I remember there was a family member and I could see she was still with this man, and he was the first version of he was like the kid's dad. He was like my dad, he was like my kid's dad. And so the fact that she's still with him almost for almost up to 20 years now, on and off for 20 years, to me, I'm like, that's the level of growth that she's had in life. Because I learned so much by being by myself and not having anyone to rely on. And so it affect my movement, it affect my choices, it affect how I spent my time and energy, how I spent my money. Everything was relying on me, and nobody was going to save me. So when you remove that sort of savior or codependent connection in your life, you remove options in life, and it really gets you clear on how you want to spend your life and how you don't. And so a lot of people don't want to give up these codependencies because they like having all these different options, because it really cushions them from their true harsh reality. And so for me, like I said, like reconciling with people, there are times when you want to have those people in your life and you could use that friendly face, but remember that friendly face came with that abusive nature. And I had to tie back into the previous video. I had to remember who's been here. There's like a saying, like what is that saying when you're shooting, when you're practicing like basketball or something, like who was here when you're shooting hoops or something? Like these people, instead of like having that hard conversation, they decided to disappear. That's easy. Disappearing is easy. Ignoring the problem is easy. That's what they do. They ignore you, they ignore their problems, and they go into delusion. And so, like, remember, they were the ones that needed you to pick up the pieces. So if they haven't picked up their own pieces and pushed them into that remorse, because regret says, I miss you. Remorse says, I know what I put you through and why you left. Okay? Because I would have left too. Because that's a shitty, and we have to work through, like, nobody's perfect. We have to work through our shadow aspects, but that's not what's happening here. They're still needing you to carry them in some way, and that is unfair because you've been doing this since childhood. This is why you've been so tired. You deserve a lighter life. And so I had to stop picking up passengers along the way while I'm in transition, recognizing that it's just not that deep anymore. And so, like, when you learn to recognize people that give you space. See, there's a healthy space, and then there's a space where it's like, when I've had space with my kids at times, and I'm still working on that too, right? Because like it's hard when you're a parent and your kids need that independence, but it's so important for them to have that independence. And it's so important for as a parent to have our independence, because sometimes you lose yourself when you're in that child rearing phase, and where they're so dependent on you. That's that empty nest syndrome. So it's important to find our own interests, but it's also a period of reflection for me. And when my kids didn't want to spend time with me, I had to ask why at certain times. And sometimes it is. They just need to spread their wings and fly. It's not always about you, But at the same time, I also recognize where, you know what, there are aspects about me that made them feel unsafe to come to me for certain things, and it made me unsafe. Like there were times when I kept choosing these people from my past, I was miserable. When I kept choosing these past patterns, it was making me miserable. So like not only like were they doing their own independent thing, but when we did connect, it was still heavy because like it was always about lessons. It was always, struggle. Like we couldn't go and just have fun. So that's what I'm working on now. And remember, yes, you had to learn what you had to learn, but part of these people were part of the reasons why this was so hard. They didn't have to make it this hard. Life didn't have to be this hard. We had to learn to see everyone as a potential who could hurt us, that survival mode. In a way that to protect ourselves. But this is very different. The people that hurt you really went out of their way to really make you feel small. Like this is unnaturally, this is crazy intentional harm and abuse. And it's just like, at what point could they not like stop the car and be like, what am I doing? And the fact that you had to remove yourself, this is another reason why I don't go back to past people, because it's been so long. People will like let you go years and decades of not speaking, and all of a sudden come back around after 3 to 5 years and be like, hey, what's up? Like, are you kidding me? Like, you were okay to just leave me for 3 to 5 years? Cool. So am I now. Like, because now you discarded me. You wanted to punish me with your space. Cool. Guess what I've been doing in that time? Very different things than you have. And I'm not going to just give that up and hand that over to people because they're going to say, well, I was intimidated, or, you weren't open. Bullshit. There's just so many excuses these people will make to say that you weren't receptive, when it's like, well, no. When you're an abusive person, I'm not receptive anymore. And when you show up and you act like nothing has happened and you haven't done anything wrong, you're right, I'm not receptive. And when you try to wash, whatever that term is, I don't know, whitewash, that's but they tried to, I don't know if you can use that here, but they tried to like wash out the abusive behavior and dim your light, but dim down the abusive behavior to make it be not that big of a deal. Like, it's been years where these people like won't, and it's so interesting. Like, I've noticed with different connections, like if they wanted to, they would. If you really were important to them, they would have reached out, and like their ego and pride would have taken the back seat, because they would have said, like, you're important to me, not because I can take from you, because I see the value in you. So a lot of people that were abusive towards me, they didn't see, like, they could see aspects of me, but they didn't think I was deserving of respect and consideration and communication. And so, like, you got to remember all these things. You got to back up the emotional nostalgia and remember be the devil's advocate for yourself and be like, why is this person coming around now? And how are they coming around? Are they coming in with like, you know what, life has hit me? Because I acknowledge, like, I didn't start changing until it was really affecting me negatively and mine. And so I get that. That's a natural occurrence, because it was later in life where I realized, you know what, this is happening because I've treated somebody else this way. Like, that was the next stage. And then I had to say, well, oh, I remember when this is happening to me because I had done that to them. And maybe not like set up that way, but I could connect it and be like, you know what, this feeling sucks. And I feel bad that I treated that person like that. I remember there was this girl when I was younger, and I remember, I think it was like 10, and I pushed her down. And she came from like a lesser, a lower income home, and we knew that. And so I was having a bad day, and I pushed her down one time, and I still feel bad for doing that. And I don't know if she remembers that, but that doesn't make me feel good. And I remember, because I was bullied, it does travel down the line if you're not careful. And it's not just about bullying, it's about self-esteem and self-love and self-respect and all these things, and self-worth. So when you lack those, this is where the bullying comes through as well. And so like we have to look at ourselves and recognize like accountability, but also like, how would I feel if someone did that to me? And these people don't go there. And I don't know if it's the shame. I don't know. It's not my problem. I have to look at, like, I can do videos on how I healed myself, if that would be helpful to some people, because I do feel like some people can be, I feel like everyone can change if they want to, but it's going to take time. And these people are very impulsive. And where I used to be impulsive too, there's a different sort of like motivator, at first it was money for me too, but more for stability and to give my kids things and to have more time and rest and more help with things. I wanted to pay people to finish my home instead of me renovate it, because like I wanted to spend time with my kids, not renovating a house. And instead I had partners who wanted to use my house and not help me renovate and like have a comfortable home for their kids and pay less bills and not pay their fair share. And so like now I'm like, why would I take that person back? What would be the incentive? People position themselves above me. They pedestal themselves. They put their kids above my kids. This is done intentionally. And we can talk about certain shadow aspects, but like for you to spend so much time away from somebody and not be able to like self-reflect and come up with those answers, to me, I just don't need to go back to that. So like even when when people come back around, um, look at how they come back. If it's a friendly gesture and you're like, oh, maybe it's hard for them. You know what? If they can't come back with remorse and acknowledge how they've hurt you, they have not done the hard work. Okay? Yes, it's going to be hard. It would be very hard for some of the people. Can you imagine, like, if you're relating to this, some of the people who have done you so dirty, the people in my workplaces that backed the man who sexually harassed me, the kid's father and his family who left us. Can you imagine? Like, I can't imagine being that person in that page in our book. Like that's a hard thing to come to truth with. That's a painful truth they're gonna have to acknowledge. And the fact that they don't want, it's easier for them to blame me instead of acknowledge their actions. Like, I don't know how you come back from that, and that could be a life of that. You know what I mean? I don't. That's what I mean. Like, I believe all people can change if they want to, but that is something. That is a hurdle. That is a bump under the rug. That's going to be challenging, and I just wonder if that's why these people never change, because there's some other behaviors like. To understand you did something for these reasons because you were made to believe you're less than. I don't know, when you compare that to somebody who bullied and pushed on somebody, and like you can acknowledge that you were bullied too, but you did it for so long. Like, you did it for so long. Like, why could you never, you know? I don't know. It's not my job. Um, and that's another thing too, is like having a situation with people that it's not that deep. I really got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I had that neighbor with the dog and the leash, and I'm like, you know what, it's not my job. It's not my job. I thought, you know what, maybe she just doesn't understand. Maybe she doesn't understand why I'm angry with her or just like avoiding her. But like, why is it my job? It's not that deep. If she can't manage that, if she can't self-reflect and be calm and courteous to me, it's what else is like, what else is going on there? I am not getting paid to be a counselor. I'm a neighbor. I barely see you. I mean, I see you maybe on a daily, but it's not that deep. I pass by you. We don't connect. And I had to stop like putting myself out there and expecting myself to fix other people's situations that they had broken. They broke it, they need to fix it. And that's where, like, when these people come back around, it may be, oh, you're thinking, oh, you know what, it's been hard for them to reach out to me, so like I want to meet them halfway. No, it's not, because they didn't come back, like I said, with the painful truth of how their bad behavior, how they hurt you. They haven't been able to reflect. They haven't taken time to do that, and they haven't done the work to fix what was the main issue in the beginning. And so for me, it's a no. And when those things aren't, I've not seen it yet, so I don't know what that looks like. And that's why I stopped when I realized my family was not willing to do this, and then I stopped expecting it from strangers and just people in my community. Like, if a family member can't do it, then chances are like these people can't do it. And so like I just stopped expecting it and waiting for it, and that has helped me with my emotional space and my clarity to close doors that I was holding open in hopes that they were going to change without any sort of evidence of action of change. And so like that helps you with your mental headspace, because you can make it black or white. Gray abuse thrives in gray zones. Gray zones are good for some areas. Let me say, like, I'm in transition, but I am growing, and I sometimes get stuck, so that could be a gray zone. But this is not a gray zone time. Either they respect you or they don't. They've done the work or they haven't, and they're safe or unsafe. And that's where I go with that. If people, it's you know what, if you feel like it's painful pulling teeth and you're not a dentist getting paid for that, that is not your job. That is not your responsibility. And you have to grieve the fact that You don't have people in your life at this time that respect you the way you can respect them. They cannot provide the safe space that you could provide. They're not willing to have hard conversations. Like, I've had more conversations with my two kids than I have with these grown-ass adults. And so, like, it is, people are capable, it's just they're not. And so when you recognize that, you have to grieve that person, because there's going to be things and elements of those people. Like, you remember good times, you remember maybe they made you laugh, and they were, you know, you had fun doing this and that. But you have to remember, like, that's not, like, that was almost like a trailer to bring you in, and to keep you so that they could abuse you. In reality, that's the painful truth. And so when you realize that, it's easier to let them go. It's easier to close that door, and then you don't have to, like, hold space in your head or in your heart for those people. And it's painful, and you got to grieve it, because I had to grieve it for me, because I lost family members that are still alive. But I also had, this is still painful, I had to grieve, like, I felt bad for them, you know, but they never felt bad for me. See, you see, like, I can feel bad for them. I feel bad that they're still stuck in that misery, and I have the answers to help people get to a happier place in life, but I can't do the work, and I can't get them to listen to me. I can't control people. And so they were trying to control me, and there was an element of control where I thought, if I could just show them, if I could just tell them, if I could just teach them. But, like, if they're not receptive and they're closed off, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your energy. And so that's what I mean. Like, when you see certain things, pay attention to who people are showing you who they are, and listen, because it's your money matters. I know people, like, that sounds superficial, but your money matters. It's a way of the world, and, like, your energy is your money. And so, like, it's not just, like, the money in your bank account, but it's your energy that you expend, in order to, like, try to get someone to hear you when they don't want to listen. They don't want to. If they wanted to, they would. The sooner you learn that and listen to that, the sooner you can leave them behind and move forward. This will keep you stuck if you don't get good with this lesson. And so I've had to learn that. Do I have good memories of people from my past? From my family? Yes. That doesn't mean I have to reconnect with them. That doesn't mean, like I said, those good memories came with that abuse. And so until... That's how I see it. Until I get evidence, until I get a receipt that something else is different, that's where I've left them. That's where they are. And like I said, like, people will do this. My father has not changed. I think he's like 80 something. He is still the same person since he was when those patterns were developed. He has not changed. You can change locations, you can change jobs, you can change partners. That doesn't mean you've created change. Just because you've moved from one, aggressive, angry man to one who is covert and friendly in your face but backstabbing in your back, that is still the same abusive partner. They're just showing up differently. So those are things that I've had to learn about leaving people in the past. And yeah, I think I'm going to stop this video there. Hopefully this is helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe. I don't know, I'll do another video, I think, about I've done quite a few on settling, but I do think it's important. So I don't know something. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.